Radiant Black is taking the indie comic book world by storm over at Image Comics. If you haven't read this series yet, you need to. Not just because it's a roller coaster of a comic that breaks the narrative mold, while also being visually breathtaking either. It's also got some amazing characters with unconventional takes on conventional superpowers. Join me as we count down the top 10 superpowers of Radiant Black, including all the Radiants, by the way, not just Radiant Black. We're going to be talking about all of them on this list. Number 10, Flight. One of the first powers we see Radiant Black able to demonstrate in the comics is that of flight, a pretty cool superpower and a classic one. This one likely works based on the fact that the Black Radiant seems to be like a black hole and comes with gravity manipulation powers. So obviously flight is something that you would be able to do if you could affect your own gravity and sense of weightlessness. Like with most things, it takes some getting used to, and straight out of the gate, Nathan as Radiant Black doesn't quite have a handle on it, but over time he seems to get more used to the idea. As does his friend Marshall when he ends up with the suit and the powers that it provides. Number 9, Telekinesis. Along with flight comes the power of telekinesis. That is, Radiant Black can also use their power set to manipulate other objects, moving them with their mind. Or their suit? Or their emotions? It's a little unclear how they fully operate their powers, but it does seem to be both emotion and thought-based for the most part. At one point, Nathan as Radiant Black uses his telekinesis powers to lift up police officers and even a whole train. He also uses them to fly a car with a family inside to a sports game after he is unable to figure out how to help them change their tire and kinda accidentally breaks their tire iron. At least, I think that's a tire iron. Pretty sure. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, there are way more powers that I would love to talk about with you, so be sure to let us know you're loving it by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8, Force Push. Not only can Radiant Black manipulate other people and objects by levitating them in midair, but they can also use their telekinetic and gravity manipulation-based powers to force push objects and people. Nathan as Radiant Black discovers this power when he manages to track down Radiant Red, which results in a fight breaking out between the two due to a misunderstanding. Nathan only manages accidentally to make the whole misunderstanding worse when he instinctively pushes an attacking Radiant Red forcefully away from himself, knocking them into a heap of scrapped cars. Also, I feel like Force Push is something I got from Fable. I think that's actually like a power that's what they called it in Fable, the video game. Number 7, Super Strength. Another feat that we have seen the Radiants demonstrate is super strength. Primarily, this seems to be something that Radiant Red is quite good at. Initially, this just seems to be because Red is super jacked and super strong, but the how behind their super strength is actually a lot more interesting than just default muscles. But we'll get to how their super strength and their overall power set that it is attached to works in a moment. Red isn't the only Radiant to have this power. Radiant Black also seems to have a good amount of strength, which probably comes from more their telekinetic-based abilities. As we talked about with their ability to force push, this mimics super strength, and through their more telekinetic abilities, they have also been able to lift many heavy things, and many heavy things at once as well. As I said earlier, they managed to fly through the air carrying a car full of people like it was nothing, and as soon as their powers first manifested, Nathan as Radiant Black manages to lift a train, a car, and police officers all at the same time, which just reminds us that not all super strength comes in the form of muscles. Number 6, Matter Absorption. This is a power that Radiant Red demonstrates in the comics. As I said, we're not just focusing solely on Black here, but more the Radiants in general from the comics as a group, and all the powers that we've seen them utilize thus far, or at least as many as I could fit on this list, because there's definitely more. Radiant Red has the power to absorb matter that they come into contact with. So far, we've seen them use this to grow in size, mass, strength, and durability, even being strong enough to bust through a solid brick wall, and probably some metal as well during a bank heist they pulled off near the beginning of the series. Or a series of bank heists, really. They also definitely could make themselves look like juggernauts, so that's another cool thing. Number 5, Teleportation. The Pink Radiant also comes with her own power set, namely, she's a teleporter. The crazy thing is how far she can teleport people. She created portals near her which can then be accessed by anyone in the immediate vicinity and moved through by said folks. I think she can also make portals for other people too, such as like placing a portal nearby for others to move through or fall through. She can map multiple portals out as well and can go as far as Australia from the US and go as far as from the US to Tokyo, and even farther than that. At one point we see her teleport to an unknown area of space where a space battle happens to be in action. She managed to teleport back to Earth from there as well, taking herself and Radiant Black to Russia. The crazy thing about all that is that teleportation drains Pink, so the fact that she was able to do so much so quickly is really impressive when you understand some of her power's limitations. Number 4, Power Boost. For each of the other Radiants, Radiant Black seems to possess a team-up power. With Radiant Pink, that happens to be the capability to use his energy blast or his laser. I'm not sure what we want to call that power. It wasn't on this list, but it's another one that he has, to boost Pink's power. When they first teleport to space together and find themselves in the midst of that epic space battle that I was talking about, Radiant Black in a panic suggests that they teleport back when it seems a few mechs turn their gaze towards the Radiants. Radiant Pink insists that she can't really teleport back because she's too drained from getting them there in the first place, and also has no idea how she did it to begin with, as it's so far out. Radiant Black asks Pink to trust him and try something new, using a blast of energy to power up her abilities and giving her enough juice to basically get them home, kind of like a jump start. Not to the Japanese forest that he asked her to picture though, but back to Earth at least, so close enough. At least they're no longer in an epic space battle, so there's that. Number 3, enhanced durability. Radiants seem to be, for the most part, a lot more durable than humans. We see examples of this when they fight one another and when they go up against their sudden alien enemy, who we learn in issue number 10 goes by the name of 001. At least, that's what it seems their name seems to translate to in English. Black and Red especially take a lot of hits in the series, and while some prove more critical, for the most part, they are almost always able to get back up and keep on fighting. We've seen them get launched into and through cars, buildings, and take what appear to be powerful blows from one another and still survive that. Although, as I said, for the most part, even if you have enhanced durability, it doesn't mean you are impervious to harm, which you will learn in this series. That's part of what makes it great. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm trying to tell you the information but not be too spoilery. So yes, in case you haven't read it yet, but also go read it now so that it's not spoilery at all and you know everything I'm talking about. Ha ha ha. Number 2, light manipulation. It's really hard to put into words what Radiant Yellow's power set is like, especially as we've really only gotten a taste of those powers in issue 8 thus far. But I'm gonna do my best to try to define what I think it is. From what I saw in issue 8, it looked to me like Radiant Yellow has the power to manipulate various light rays or perhaps energy waves, possibly similar to something we might see from Marvel superhero Monica Rambeau, which is pretty powerful. In the issue, we see Wendell, Radiant Yellow, use their powers to possibly magnify the force of Radiant Red, or perhaps simply to try and blast or disorient their opponent, 001. That's when we see all the yellow heads that are kind of like little light shadows. Later on in the issue, Yellow blasts Black with what appears to be rays or beams of light, which knocks them off their feet, appearing like a sonic or light-based energy blast. Though of course I'd lean more towards light than sonic-based, just based on this art. Looks pretty light-powered to me. Also, there's that part where Radiant Yellow's visor just like blasts light. Seems pretty light-based. Number 1, telepathy. A closed network perhaps of telepathy, but still telepathy nonetheless. This seems to be something the Radiants can activate when they otherwise are unable to vocally communicate with one another. But it could be a possible power that they have access to all the time, but simply don't know fully how to tap into yet. Like how some teams, have like comms, the Radiants, more similar to the X-Men, may just have the capability all the time to basically communicate telepathically with one another, staying in constant communication, even when they are a great distance apart. We see this power manifest in issue number 7 of the Radiant Black series, when Radiant Pink and Radiant Black find themselves in the vacuum of space, where they would be unable to communicate vocally. As a result, they seem to be communicating telepathically, just instinctively. They also remarkably seem to be able to breathe even in space, but that's a power for another list, because I have run out of time, even though I have so many other powers I want to talk about. What is your favorite power set that you have seen in the Radiant Black series? Which ability do you most wish you had from the Radiants? Which one do you think is the coolest? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, there are a ton more powers we still have not mentioned on here that I would love to tell you about, so be sure to click like, comment, and share this list if you want a part 2, because I would love for us all to make that happen for you. and for me. Till next time, you stay radiant and stay nerdy, YouTube.